I'm Tammy Stanley, and I'm the founder and the CEO of the Tammy Stanley Sales Refinery. Today, I want to talk to you about a book that I believe can help you overcome the reluctance you feel to call your prospects. Now, I was faced with this very thing a number of years ago, a good number of years ago in my own sales business. And what I really struggled with was that it had never before been difficult for me to overcome that reluctance to pick up the phone and call prospects. I mean, there was always this feeling of, oh, I don't want to do it now, but I could always get myself to do it. And then I hit this point in my career where I really had difficulty picking up the telephone and calling prospects. The interesting thing was that I had already achieved tremendous success in my business. So you wouldn't think that at that point in time I would struggle with sales call reluctance. That would be when you would think that it would be easy for me to keep doing what I had always been used to doing. But no, it wasn't that way. I experienced tremendous sales call reluctance. But I remember the exact moment that I had a breakthrough where I knew at that point I was going to be able to really get to the heart of the matter. And what happened was I was taking off my shoes one night. I was sitting on my bed, taking off my shoes, basically getting ready to call it a day. And I was listening to these thoughts inside my head. They were telling me basically that I was never going to achieve the goals that I had set for myself that season in my business because I hadn't even bothered to call the prospects who were on my list that day. I hadn't even called these people that I had said I was going to call. And it was in that moment, it was like lightning struck, that I realized that these thoughts that were currently chastising me and basically telling me I was never going to amount to anything because I didn't make my calls that day were the same thoughts I had been listening to all day that had talked me out of making sales calls. So that voice inside my head that had told me all day long things like, oh, it's too early to call your prospects, oh, you should be doing something else right now, go take care of this little task, this little chore, you don't have the courage to make these calls right now, it's too late to call. That voice that had talked me out of making calls was now chastising me for not making the calls. And I realized at that point that this was what needed to happen. I needed to understand how to overcome that voice inside my head. And once I learned how to overcome that voice inside my head, I would overcome sales call reluctance as well as anything else that voice would tell me that I couldn't do or whatever. So that is what led me to actually write this book. And it's called Carpe Phonem, as in seize the phone. If you've ever heard Carpe Diem, the Latin phrase, seize the day. This is my take on seize the day, only Carpe Phonem. Of course, phonem is a made-up word because they didn't really have telephones back when they were speaking Latin. But anyway, I love the book design. You can see the heavy weights on the telephone, and certainly that is what it is like sometimes when you're trying to move your sales business ahead. It feels like that telephone has a few 100 pounds of weights on it. And really it's because that voice inside your head is always talking you out of doing what you really do want to do. And that's what Carpe Phonem is all about. It's how to seize the phone, take action, and call your prospects, even when you lack courage. Now think about that. If you could call your prospects, even when you lack courage, wouldn't that be awesome? Wouldn't that be the key to overcoming any roadblock that you face, or any obstacle you face about calling your prospects? And I think that's the thing, is that voice tells us, it's always telling us that we have to have courage before we can make that next call. And I'm here to tell you, no, you don't. You don't need courage at all. And that's really what this book is all about. So you can get it, and I'm thinking you just might want this book because it doesn't take too long to read. It's about an hour or two, depending on how quickly you read. And for a mere $15. You can get it at Amazon, or you can go to my website, tammystanley.com, and you can get it there. I'm not sure if you'll save on shipping by getting it from me. I'm not really sure about that. I think you might, but either way, if you shop through Amazon, that's just fine with me if you go to Amazon and get it. So, but anyway, I can't help thinking this would be a great read for you. I know some people I've heard great things about it, and people have told me that they found it a profound read, and that it provided ideas and examples which really allowed them to uncover some powerful truths in their life. One person told me that the confidence she gained after reading this book allowed her to double her sales. I've heard all kinds of things, just of how much this book has empowered people to pick up the phone, and even heard testimonials about how it helps people to overcome the obstacles of like weight gain and stuff like that, because they understand now that false voice inside their head, they see it now as this false voice that really does not have power over them. They have power over it. So here is to you seizing your telephone and calling your prospects even when you lack the courage.